Yet another massive red light weekend for NC State football. Commitments encouraged, Lamborghinis not necessary.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As playoffs wind down and sports stop sporting like we want them to, this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Happy Monday to all. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibbs. What a massive weekend it was for NC State football. We hinted to you all about this on Friday to keep an eye out for some red lights. It was a huge official visit weekend. A lot of big-time names coming through Raleigh. Only 3 of them, as we're recording this, have announced their commitment publicly. But I'm understanding that there is a lot more still to come. We're talking could be like 9 or 10 commitments solely coming out of one weekend. Kenton, have you ever seen a weekend for NC State football recruiting quite like this one?
No, sir, but I'll tell you, in the words of the former Disturbing the Peace rapper Ludacris, we in the red light district, because I'm going to tell you, this thing is going to last for quite some time if the sources that Grace and I have that are close to these situations are shooting us straight here. Because this is, like you said, this is going to be one of the best recruiting weekends in NC State history if these things come to fruition. If these players come to campus and pan out to be who they should be, nothing less, nothing more than what they're predicted to be, this is going to be a very special weekend in Wolfpack history because you have addressed multiple needs going forward in terms of positions of great need that guys are, areas where we have historically struggled to find dudes. We are now seeing a multitude of them coming in. So, this is a situation where all in all, you can do nothing but give credit to Doran and this staff for putting together an excellent plan and putting together excellent visits as well. I was very concerned in terms of some of the losses that we saw from the recruiting staff last year in terms of folks who were going on to some of the biggest places in America when you talk about Bama and places like that. But then you see that high school recruiting has not lost a step, not skipped a beat, not done a darn thing, but get drastically better. And you're like, all right, we're okay. We're okay. I think we're in good hands here. I absolutely love to see a weekend like this that produces this many commits all at once.
Yeah, that was a perfect bridge to my next point. This coaching staff is killing it on the recruiting trail right now. One of the newer additions to the recruiting staff is Coach Alex Falk, who's a really good follow on Twitter if you've not found him already. I was losing track of how many wolf emojis he was tweeting out, which I assume equal to commitments that they were receiving over the weekend. I believe he joined the program just a couple months ago. Everything that this program is, he is already locked into it. This coaching staff, you talk about Joker Phillips, and we're going to talk about the commitments so far in just a minute. One of them I'll go ahead and get into, the commitment of KC's younger brother, Arrion Concepcion. Joker Phillips, man, have a year. What a calendar year of recruiting just for that wide receiver.
A stud in recruiting.
Unbelievable. And Joker Phillips is a guy that had received a lot of flack for potential lack of recruiting in years past. What in the world are they going to say now? Picking up guys last summer like Paylor, Terrell Anderson, you get Keenan Jackson to flip on National Signing Day. You keep that momentum rolling. You pick up Arrion Concepcion this summer. We all know what the last name Concepcion means to this program after what we saw last year from KC. Joker Phillips is on an absolute tear right now, and there's certainly still more to come.
Yeah, and you talk about Joker Phillips, but I'm going to tell you, this whole staff deserves a ton of credit. This is not a one-man band and one-man operation here because we're getting special talents all over the place. Imagine with me, if you will, I tell you that there's a running back, and he's not created on Madden. He's about 6'2", 220, and runs a 4-4-4 electric, right? I know when some people hear 4-4-4, they think that I'm about to break out the stones and crystals and get into astrology. No. That's what this young man runs. The back of his bat got through the line at that point in time as a high schooler. And I'm talking to you all about a young man by the name of Kentrell, Westland High School out of Ohio. This is a stud, a baller of a running back with an extensive offer list that, you turn on the tape. This young man did get 3,000 total yards from scrimmage out of nowhere, and he's considering the pack. I'm going to tell you, this staff, top to bottom, they are kicking behind and taking names on the recruiting trail right now.
Coach Goebel, Coach Mitchell, Coach Tujay, Coach Anai, Coach Gibson, just crushing recruiting right now. And I want to take a quick walk back to something we discussed on Friday. One of our Fan Friday comments was alluding to Texas using the Lamborghini, something that I really appreciate about NC State. Sure, they get into kind of the glitz and the glamour when you're looking at pictures and social media posts from how the visits went over the weekend. But you're not going to see the super nice sports cars or the stacks of money or all that extra stuff. They are a program built on culture. When you receive as many commitments as you received in this weekend, you can see where that culture really shines. Peyton Wilson, after beating the Dirty Foot Club, he was not kidding about how much this culture means to this program and what it will continue to mean to this program in the future. Kenton already alluded to it. When you look at the magnitude that this weekend may have once the dust settles in months to come, this very well could have been one of the bigger recruiting weekends in NC State football history.
Grayson and I talked about this before. We're getting into that territory where we're not having to rebuild after having hey, this group of guys held us over for 3 years, and then all of a sudden we're rebuilding back from scratch. We're getting to the point where you reload, where after you lose a few guys to the NFL, whatever the case may be, you reload more. You got an extra one in the chamber always to say, hey, we've got something else for you just in case you thought that we were done whipping the wheels off you. We're getting to that point, and that is a scary place for the rest of the ACC. Great place for Wolfpack Nation, an amazing place, because ever since I've been a part of Wolfpack Nation in 2013 and beyond, I have not seen this type of continuity in terms of good class, not even mentioning portal class, back to back to back. So this team, they're building in the right direction. It's time to go put it on the field to truly take that next step to going where this program truly belongs.
Right, and that's the part where it gets scary. You look at what we did in the offseason, just in the transfer portal, we're licking our chops for this coming season. Now, what if you match that energy with your high school recruiting, and you're bringing in massive fish out of the high school ranks to pair with your transfer portal class? That is when things get really dangerous for the group in red and white in Raleigh. So, again, I don't think you can emphasize the true momentum that really feels like it was built out of this weekend. In just a minute here, we're going to talk about 3 of the commitments, hoping there wasn't a magical 4th one to be announced by the time you hear this on Monday. But I say all that to say there are many, many more to come. So we're going to touch on the 3 that we know of right now after a quick word from our sponsors. Our first sponsor of the day is FanDuel. Look, we all love sports. We love them so much that we never want them to end. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer and fewer games to watch and or bet on. All the sports aren't sportsing like we want them to. But here's the catch. On FanDuel, they let you keep sports going whenever you want. All you have to do is open up the app and dream up bets anytime, any game. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every single day, all summer long. So head on over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Well, folks, as fate would have it, there was actually another commitment while I was reading that last ad. Jarrell Boulder, who is a big-time 3-star wide receiver out of Marshfield, North Carolina, literally just committed to the NC State Wolfpack in the middle of this episode. Okay, so now there is 4 commitments that we know of right now. This is 10:36 p.m. on Sunday evening. Maybe there's going to be another one by the time we finish this episode, but right now there's 4. We'll start here with Jarrell Boulder. He's listed as a 3-star. I think that is extremely likely to bump up to a 4. Turn on this guy's highlight tape because it is the definition of highlight. Freak athlete, a lot of room to grow on just a 6-foot frame. I say this basically every time we get a skill player. Just wait till Coach Thunder gets a hold of this guy. I think this is lightning in a bottle for Jarrell Boulder to be running with the Pack.
He's listed at 6 feet. He's a junior, so there's still time for him to grow and all that good stuff. But more importantly than that, he has an uncanny body control. His ability to go up, high point the football, his ability to go up and have coordination when he's in the air at the moment of truth is something special. It's something truly special. I would love to see him break away from defenses a little bit more, but his ability to just say, hey, you know what? Even if you think that I can't get away from you in terms of laterally going left or right, or I can't just outrun you and take you deep, if they throw the ball vertically, I can separate from you that way too. Yep. And he does it oh so well. So I'm excited to have Mr. Boulder running with the Pack. And I'll tell you what, I'd be surprised if that's the last commit that happens. I'm not between now and when we record, but in the next week or so, I'd be shocked.
Talk about the type of heater that this recruiting staff is on. The recruitment of Boulder more or less came down to the University of Georgia and NC State. NC State just won that battle. Now, sure, there's still plenty of time between now and National Signing Day. We always make note of that, but that's a really big recruiting win to pick up at this stage of the cycle. Now, we're going to get into Arrion Concepcion, probably one of the biggest names that you heard over the weekend, just because of his family ties to KC Concepcion, who had a dynamite All-American freshman season. Everything that I've heard about Arrion, also known as Nunu, I'll just call him Nunu, basically sounds like he is just KC 2.0. Now, I'm sure he runs a little differently, breaks out of his routes a little differently, but I've heard he is very much a similar type of player. You can stick him in the slot, and good luck keeping a body on him because he's going to lose you at some point. Adding basically another KC to this roster and handing him over to Robert and I said, you had so much fun with this one. How would you like two? How would you like two of them things, as KC says before every single game? It felt like a no-brainer all the way. It was always going to be the Wolfpack here. The familiarity with the staff, the players, let alone his own brother, the writing was all over the wall, and Nunu is also running with the Pack.
Yeah, you can't have much more familiarity with the players than growing up with one of them. I don't see how much more familiar you can get. But in all seriousness, this, we talk about bloodlines and how important it is to keep really good guys and their family members all running with the Pack and whatnot. And you think about Thayer Thomas and Drake Thomas and all that. These two have the potential to be the best brother duo in quite some time. And again, we just saw one guy who's littered all throughout our record books in terms of Thayer Thomas at receiver, and another guy who, if you watch the games, when all of our other linebackers were hurt, Drake Thomas put that linebacking core on his shoulders and said, hey, I'll make it happen from every single spot they put me at. By the way, we're wishing him well wishes and a speedy recovery on his most recent injury. But you're looking at a dynamic duo that could be one of the best that we've seen since the Hope brothers.
Yeah.
Since the Hope brothers. Both of those guys had many, many years in the league, over 10 years apiece combined. One of them's destined for the Hall of Fame. The other probably belongs in the Lion Hall of Fame, but people don't really want to talk about that. That's not so for another time. So these are, these two are going to be very special. They're going to be dynamic to watch together. Whether we get 1 year of them or 2 years of them together, don't really care. Nunu is his own man. He's special in his own ways. I'm excited to get him on campus to see in which ways he can be special for the Pack.
Yeah, something that was really cool that I read about his recruitment is that KC maintained the entire way through. I want you to make your own decisions. This is where I'm at. We're a family. They treat you like family as well, but you are your own person, and I want you to make your own decisions. For him to still feel so confident in what NC State is building, I mean, what more can you say about that culture? And the perfect point you made about the Holt brothers, the sudden tradition that NC State football is building and having multiple brothers play for NC State, it's a whole lot of something. I know I'm early in the week for that. It's a whole lot of something. You look at the Thomas brothers, you look at the Holt brothers, the Finley brothers are always going to hold a very special place in our heart as well. The Concepcion brothers, I mean, not kidding, they really have potential to be the most dynamic sibling group to ever play at NC State. And that's, Obviously, a lot of that is heavy lifting on KC's part with the season he just had. But if he comes back again this year and blows it up, and then you got Nunu coming down the line just 2 years' time, I don't know. This could be NC State football royalty growing before our eyes here. Massive commitment from Nunu Concepcion. Not only just one Concepcion, but two of them things. The other two commitments from over the weekend, Cam Strong, mentioned him on Friday. His commitment was down to NC State, Georgia Tech, and West Virginia. He picked the pack on Friday night, 3-star corner out of Anderson, South Carolina. I noticed that Brandon Cisse was very instrumental in Strong's official visit. And then later on that commitment, Brandon Cisse, we love him on this show, paying off yet again with the commitment of Cam Strong. Kind of fits this newer mold that Kenton's mentioned on here. A little bit of like a taller cornerback, more physical, more length to him. I think he's yet another very strong prospect to just throw into the bunch on how many super impressive DB prospects we have coming up through the ranks here.
Not only is Cam continuing that lineage in terms of really long corners, but also there's becoming a little bit of a pipeline in terms of players, really good corners out of South Carolina. Yes. You know, you talk about Cisse and his how instrumental he was in that recruiting and all that. And by the way, Concepcion, Casey is a better man than me because I'm gonna tell you, him saying you can make your own decision. You know, I was playing with a child today, and they had a little light blue balloon in their hand. I said, "You put that balloon down." You know, that's the worst color balloon there is. Yeah. Get all that other color.
Walking with a thumbtack.
Hey, listen. I didn't want to start. There was a newborn baby in the room. I didn't want to start with a newborn, but you know, might have. But in all seriousness, Cam Strong is, again, he fits that mold, and he's very fluid. He has the movement skills to where you can tell he's not like a big, stiff guy that is like, he's going to be a safety when he gets here, maybe even a linebacker, because he just can't do it in terms of the movement. He is a guy that has some length to him, but he has the ability to run with receivers, to get in their hip pocket, and to make the cuts with them and run the route for them.
The fourth commitment of the weekend that we know of so far was running back R.J. Boyd. He's a 6-foot running back out of Waycross, Georgia. Kind of leads me into another point. Really feels like NC State is bodying both South Carolina and Georgia on the recruiting trail. We've talked a lot about on here trying to fortify the borders of North Carolina and really keep all that in-state talent. But then if you can pick out of the other cookie jars when you're in South Carolina, or pick out of Florida's cookie jar, maybe Georgia's cookie jar, you're on the brink of something special. They're stealing some cookies here. R.J. Boyd is another solid running back prospect, which seemingly we have a lot of those as well. Some of the concerns we've had in years past, maybe a thin wide receiver room, not as many dynamic running back prospects. Seems like we just snapped our fingers and now the cupboards are both full in those rooms. Another really good commitment here to NC State, keeping that momentum rolling and picking one out of the state of Georgia.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing that I want to emphasize about R.J. Boyd's commitment is very simple. We are looking at a situation with Jordan Waters where he's out of eligibility after this year.
Yeah.
So you need running back by committee. But more importantly, if you want to go with the option of having another bell cow, you can never go wrong by having more potential suitors for that spot to say, does he look like he can carry the load? Does he look like a 20-carry guy type of game, a 20-carry game type of guy? You know, so it's important to have all these running backs in that room to say, hey, let's see what we can get done in terms of these guys who play this position so well, and these guys who, like you say, have that dynamic aspect to them. Because it's not just enough to be a running back. There are multiple different types of running backs. You got your short yardage guys, you got your home run hitters, you got your wide receiver or the hybrid between the running back, wide receiver, gadget guy. And it seems like we're leaning more and more into getting guys who can be that potential bell cow type of player.
Jarrell Boulder, Nunu Concepcion, Cam Strong, and R.J. Boyd are the 4 newest members of the 2025 recruiting class. Certainly not the last to come. Again, we're likely to hear more, maybe even this week, and then as we go out through the rest of the summer as well. What a weekend they just had over there in the Murphy Center. I can't imagine the buzz that must be, you could probably feel in the air. Lighting it red as we always do, but I don't know if that red light has ever been as hot as it was this weekend. Coming up next, we're getting into actually a decommitment that also occurred over the weekend. Don't want to have that buried in some of the news, but it is also worth talking about after a quick word from our sponsors. Our second sponsor of the day is eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience, that's the formula for winning championships. But it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers to roof racks, exhaust kits, and LED headlights, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. That's because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Last couple of minutes of our Monday show. Wanted to also spend a little time on a decommitment that occurred over the weekend. Robert Jones III, also known as RJ Jones, who recently committed to NC State in the 2025 class. He's a cornerback out of Vero Beach, Florida, chose to decommit to the Pack after committed for, I think, maybe like a week and a half. Now, this is an interesting situation because it's not uncommon. I don't want to say it rubs you the wrong way, but maybe a little bit. Committed to NC State, but then still continued to take official visits at other schools. I believe he was interested in UCF. I think he's shown some interest in Illinois. And then this weekend has ultimately chosen to decommit to NC State. Seeing him express interest in other schools after literally just committing to NC State, it's not the greatest look. I understand there's certainly immense amounts of pressure on these players throughout this process. Obviously, Kenton, you can speak to this a lot more accurately than I can, but committing to a school and then continuing to take official visits, I don't know. It doesn't exactly sit well with me.
Here's what I will say about this matter. There are sometimes things deeper at play in these young men's lives where it's like, hey, go ahead and take that official visit, player. Go do what you got to do. Go see those other campuses and whatnot. I understand that it sits uneasy with fans. I get that. You know what I mean? I'm never going to sit here and pretend like I don't understand the dangers, quote unquote, of that. And you know, you could obviously be lured away. What I will say is this. What does rub me the wrong way and what is very unique about this, being committed for 2 weeks is just odd. You know, like so for those of you who don't know, I was not always committed to NC State. I was originally committed to the University of Illinois, and that's, you know, I was going to be a Fighting Illini and all that stuff. I had former teammates that played there, and the coach that was recruiting me, his grandkids played on the same high school team as me. So I knew the family, knew him. You know, things seemed great. I received pivotal information about his future whereabouts. That was the reason I decommitted from there. Okay? It wasn't like I no longer liked the university, no longer liked the area, I still liked everything about the place, but it was the reality of the person who I thought I was going to be spending the most time with here not being there potentially is why I decommitted. Who knows if RJ has some information like that, but it's very unlikely that he gained that insight in these last 2 weeks. You know, very unlikely that he had a legitimate, like, hey, that's what's going on here type of thing. But, you know, more power to him. I wish the young man success wherever he goes, be it coming back to the Pack or be it going to one of the schools that he's currently looking at for official visits. More power to you, Mr. Jones.
Certainly not trying to, you know, come across as salty or stick my nose up at RJ here, but with the kind of momentum that NC State has and the true emphasis on program culture, substance over flash, this is a kind of a situation where it's just like, all right, man, you know, best of luck to you, and you just keep it rolling. And in the new world of NIL and the transfer portal and the glitz and the glamour, when you have other schools that stay on guys consistently and they're like, hey, man, don't you want to come sit in this Rolls Royce on this official visit? We're talking about high school kids. We're talking about 17 and 18-year-olds. Not exactly that sound of mind in these types of situations. So you're going to see more of this to come, hopefully not with NC State involved, but these types of things won't exactly be uncommon. It's still going to continue to be a little sour of a taste, you know, seeing a guy commit to a school and then literally like 2 weeks later is on the outs and he's looking for a new place. That's not exactly what this process should be, but it is absolutely a factor in a lot of these young men's lives. So Robert Jones III decommits to NC State after being committed for 2 weeks, but NC State, they're going to continue this momentum rolling hot. That'll do it for us here on Monday. As always, thank you all so much for joining us. Be sure to hit that like button. Drop your comments down in the comment box. Tell us what you thought about this massive official visit weekend for NC State football. Tell us what you think about the commitment of Nunu Concepcion, two brothers linking back up in the red and white to play for NC State. Tell us what you think about Jarrell Boulder. He is a wide receiver that will be on the rise. Make sure to keep an eye on that one. And the rest of this momentum. Kent and I feel very strongly that this weekend in particular may be talked about for quite some time to come. Any other thoughts you have, drop them down in the comment box. We'll get to each and every one of those. And we will see you all on Wednesday, hopefully with even more commitments to discuss. But until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.